I'm Ruben Abati, your host for This Day Live, the Sunday talk show. I'd like to welcome our special guest for today. We have today Olawale Olaleye, Deputy Editor at This Day on Sunday and a noted political journalist. Yemi Adamonlekun, the Executive Director of Enough is Enough, which is a non-partisan advocacy group that works to promote proper governance and public accountability. And last, but certainly not the least, we have Bola Akinterewa, former Director General of Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get started with a look at the issues of the week. Wale, you usually provide a lead in this regard.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. The week just ended wasn't any different from previous weeks, really, in terms of news developments. But we had a few items that stood out in the week. President Buhari met with Igbo leaders in the week, and that was something like what we had expected in view of some of the agitations that were undoing his administration. Of course, something that happened towards the end of the week was the statement by the president of the World Bank that the president specifically asked him to focus more on the North. Of course, this had generated controversy, but I think it will be one interesting thing to look at in this discussion panel. Former party chairman, APC, Chibisi Akande, in the week said the presidential race for 2019 was open to all. And of course, the party chairman said today that he was just airing his own personal view. And that had ultimately unsettled the party in a way, because some people in the party felt that he went off the cuff of the agenda of the meeting in Ibadan, where he actually said that. And of course, what have been termed some kind of political realignment. Former President Jonathan met with former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who hasn't hidden his intention to run for presidency in 2019. And of course, Atiku had been meeting with a lot of people, including PDP governors and other stakeholders in all the parties, literally. So Atiku is ahead of his ambition, more or less. We had the president, the federal government, asking the international community to designate IPOB as a terrorist group in furtherance to the local achievements in that respect. So there is a spread of monkeypox, which I think is a very serious one, and particularly concerned about the approach of government, on this. We'll look at it in due time. The Inspector General of Police went to court to ask the Senate to not probe him over allegations of about 120 billion. I don't know why somebody will ask the court not to probe him. We'll look at that too. Your friend in Ekiti, the Ekiti governor, declared half-work day over the release of his people by EFCC.
The Attorney General and the Commissioner of Finance.
Interesting. And a very big story too in the week was the termination of Intel still with MPA by the federal government.
The Nigerian Ports Authority.
Yes, authority. So that's about that really on the. Of course, I still have a lot more. I don't want to waste our time because I'm not leaving out Aso Rock clinic mess. The First Lady has been on this for a while. I think we should look at.
And the daughter also.
Yes, and then we lost Victor Malu in the week, the former Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Victor Malu in the week. Oshibaja said he won't be running for presidency. So those of you who have been listing his name and as likely,
did he say that?
He said it's not on the card. Or rather, wasn't on the card.
Statement to that.
If
no,
it was
said
not,
it's not on the card.
Well, I mean, let's start by looking at some of those issues in greater detail. World Bank President Jim Kim clearly has stirred up quite a bit of criticism with his recent statement regarding matters of the northern regions of Nigeria. During the World Bank Group opening press conference, Jim Yong Kim stated that President Buhari asked the organization to shift their focus to the northern region of Nigeria. The focus on this region is with the hope that as commodity prices stabilize and oil prices come back up, the economy will grow a bit more. And while it's been difficult to do so, they have obliged. However, spokesperson for President Buhari, Femi Adesina, has expressed a different sentiment, explaining what the president meant was the northeast region that has been devastated by the Boko Haram insurgency is where the World Bank should put its attention. Now, it seems the federal government is appealing to Nigerians to understand that this is not just about the North, but that this is about Nigeria. But you must have been following the controversy. So, what is going on? Because I've also read a report saying, indeed, this is true, because it looks like the North is getting everything in terms of appointments, in terms of even international support.
I honestly, the president's handlers are trying to define this or look at it in terms of context. It is not a context thing. It was clear. It was unambiguous. North. There was nothing like Northeast. So why the president would rather that the World Bank dealt with the North more is what we should be debating. He's the president of Nigeria, not of the North. So efforts to salvage that blunder or presidential gaffe is even poor. In fact, more disappointing than the blunder itself. Because
what are you saying the blunder is, so that I'm clear?
That attention should be paid to the North.
Not the Northeast.
Not Northeast, North.
Okay.
It wasn't Northeast, it was North. It was clear.
Who said North? The World Bank president?
Yeah. World Bank president.
So could he have misspoken? Could he have sort of, no, let's just be clear. Could he have what's the English word?
No. That's the kind of thing they're trying to say, that it was his accent, he misconstrued.
No, just superimpose the words. I mean, Northeast.
He didn't say Northeast.
No, that's what I'm trying to say. If you're not familiar with our sensitivities to peculiar areas, the facts might be Northeast, and the World Bank president might have just said North. Let's, for the sake of arguments, let's just push that. Let's, for the sake of argument, say that the World Bank president misspoke, that President Buhari actually said the Northeast.
Okay.
Is there a problem there?
You see...
No, is there a problem there?
I would think so.
Why?
Because there are other parts of the country that would require even more attention than the Northeast.
Well, I think I agree with you.
Why I'm going with this?
No,
sorry.
Maybe if I provide some background information.
Okay.
Look, in the front page of one of the newspapers today, I think it's Punch. Punch, having done some investigation, indeed makes it clear that it is true that the presidency prefers the international bodies paying more attention to the North. Okay. And that story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper provides the details based on what is published by the World Bank itself. Okay. And to say that, look, in one breath, 50% of what is provided for Nigeria is assigned to the North. The remaining 50%, the remaining 50% is also shared with the North
and the rest of the country
and the rest of Nigeria, and it's only the North that is prioritized. So the issue being raised by that story is about the politics of Nigeria and the kind of emphasis that we have seen on that disagreement.
It's a leadership disposition. You can't brush it as...
Let me put some context. And I think it would be very interesting if we sort of drill down at the numbers. I didn't see the report, so I can't speak to that report. But if we're drilling down the numbers. Now, Obi Ezekwesili, who served as the vice president of the World Bank, I followed the Twitter thread she did yesterday.
I saw the thing she
and basically
said.
her point, which, well, I was impressed. For me, it made sense, if that is the case. Her point was that, look, the World Bank has a policy of focusing attention on conflicts, post-conflict areas, because in stabilizing those areas, you're in a sense saving the rest of the country. So she said from Sierra Leone to... At the time he came in 2015, the restiveness we've seen in the Niger Delta hadn't gotten this bad. So if the conversation was if it's 2017 conversation, definitely, I definitely agree with you.
I don't know
but at the 2015 conversation, very different dynamics.
Let's get these things in perspective. I don't know how well Yemi has been following the story. But the same Obi Ezekwesili says that the government should be sensitive to the diversity of the country.
No.
And I think that this is the more strategic point.
Her point was on communication. And I agree with her on that. So she defended. No, let's be very clear on what she stated, because I read this one.
She didn't talk about diversity.
No, she didn't. That's what I'm saying.
It was after she made that point that she moved on to communication.
Exactly, in terms of communication.
So
and how the president yes. So you can't say, and she's very clear, and I actually agree with her sentiment.
And I agree with her sentiment. Issue differently.
Okay.
it's not a matter for debate. The issue is this. The World Bank president, consciously or otherwise, stated that they've been advised to focus attention on the North. Regardless of the rationale for it, the best way to address the issue is to look at it empirically. What does that mean? How many of the projects have been located in the North? How many others are elsewhere? When you now take a look at it, you will discover that more than 50%, as you have rightly pointed out, you refer to the Punch
story.
Yes, story, which I went through. Now, 100% is a whole number. You cut it into two. That's 50-50. So first of all, 50% is for the North. Now, the totality of the component states of Nigeria, inclusive of the northern states too, are to share the other 50%. So you now have the projects already located more, in the North. So now looking at the rationalization being given, we are not concerned about that. The situational reality on the ground is such that as of today, all these World Bank projects, all right, have been located favorably to one section of the country.
What part of the North, though? I think we need to be fair, just rather than broadly saying the North. If you now drill down on the numbers in the North and find out that of your 50%, 95% of them are in the Northeast, then what does that mean?
As far as I know, Niger Delta is not in the North. It doesn't make part of that.
In their need of
I'm coming, yes, I'm making the point. You see, the issue is this. If we want to go deeply, analytically, right, in understanding why that statement was made at this particular time, you will discover that the World Bank president himself cannot come into the open to claim ignorance of Nigerian politics.
Yeah.
It is simply because the World Bank is not being compelled one way or the other, and in self-defense, the World Bank president came into the open and make it clear that, look, we were advised to focus attention on the North.
But there's a clear reason.
Anyway, Prof, if I may intervene.
Okay.
I think that beyond the details, because I can see that we have different interpretations.
Certainly.
And maybe after this program, there will still be more revelations. But I find the report by the Punch newspaper quite instructive in terms of the developments. Yeah. But I think that the issues that Nigerians are concerned about is really about equity.
Fairness.
It's about fairness. Justice. It's about diversity, which was the strongest point made by Obi Ezekwesili. Okay? And there is an apprehension across Nigeria that there is a creeping northernization, which is an old phrase in Nigerian politics. And I don't think that the government at the federal level should just dismiss those concerns. Because Nigerians all want to have a sense of belonging, and they do not want to have the feeling that one part of the country is being favored on ethnic grounds. That's a theoretical point.
Will you admit a footnote to your point?
Certainly.
The footnote is this. You see, one major source of problem in the country is the concept of northern region and southern region. You know, some people say, why do you talk about northern region and then you now talk about southwest, southeast? All right. Some very knowledgeable people in the West, Southwest, say, look, they are not Southwesterners, that they are Yorubas. They don't accept the concept of Southwest. Why Southwest, Southeast? And then you now talk about...
not as a block.
Yes, not as a block. So they are now saying, look...
But the commonalities are around those areas. For example, language binds those in the Southwest, Southeast, and in the North. Why is that complicated? If we make it very simple, why is that complicated?
Yeah, I mean, the beauty of our discussion is simply that, look, we are all analysts. We are not political stakeholders. We are not for or against.
But
But the reality,
so
but the
for
issue
those who
now,
are watching who might not understand, I'm asking why is that a bad thing? For those who might be watching who don't know Nigerian politics or dynamics, those who are in the Southwest have a commonality in if you say broadly, culture, language and culture.
Yeah, Yoruba
those in the South, yeah, which is right.
Say they are a nation.
Yeah, Southeast can claim that to a degree.
Yes.
And then the North can claim that to a degree. So, why is that a bad thing?
The issue is that, look, you cannot talk about the North as a bloc. North is, it's not homogeneous.
That is the other two regions.
But now it is presented, impression is given that it is a bloc.
And
that way creates problem for the other regions. So this is a major rationale behind the politics.
Well, I think we should again stress what most Nigerians have been saying.
Which is true.
Beyond the details.
Yes.
Half of the people commenting on this don't know or understand the details.
Yes. Yep.
But what they are saying is that any government at the center should be a government of all Nigerians.
Yes.
It should not be the government of a section or of a group who will see it as an opportunity to project themselves to the disadvantage of other Nigerians. And this is the same issue we've been dealing with since the Willings Commission of 1958-59. Now, we'll move on. The termination of the multi-billion-dollar contract between the Nigerian Ports Authority and Inters Nigeria Limited is causing ripples again in the industry, with serious repercussions in the financial services sector. Many banks are believed to have extended huge dollar facilities to Intels, who have dominated the maritime sector for several years. Conveying the decision of the federal government to the Nigerian Ports Authority, the Attorney General of the Federation, Malam Abubakar Malami, SAN, says Intels has received revenue on behalf of the Nigerian Ports Authority for 17 years, and this violates the Nigerian Constitution, which requires all revenues of the federal government to be paid into a consolidated revenue account. The Buhari administration has insisted that all government revenues must now be domiciled in the Treasury single account in the central bank. But Intels, it is alleged, has refused to comply, claiming their contract with the NPA precludes that from happening. That contract has now been voided as unconstitutional by the Attorney General of the Federation. Now, this story has been out there for about a week, and Intels has also responded, as I have said. What exactly is happening, and what do you think is likely to happen? Wale?
I think there are two sides or two angles to look at it, the political and then administration. The political side is because the intending presidential aspirant, that's Atiku, is heavily involved with Intels. And then this is seen in some quarters as an attempt to tame Atiku and probably cut him down in terms of finances, so that he probably would not have enough to prosecute his aspiration. That is one. The other one is the administration, which the AGF has cited, contravening constitutional provisions and not following procedures and rules. I do not see Intels winning this battle, actually. But I'm concerned about the political slant to it, because Atiku is an APC president. This is an APC administration. I would have thought that this is something they would have started with Atiku to look at, and then we see, without creating row, unnecessary attention and all that. But with this has further polarized, interest within the APC, and this will ultimately tell, in 2019 as we journey towards that year. So if the allegations being put together by the AGF are correct, then Intels might as well just let it go. That's what I think, yeah.
Well, is it as simple as that? Because Intels also issued a statement, been negotiating with the Ports Authority, and that again, what the NPA is referring to did not exist at the time they entered into that agreement. And the simple principle, it's a tried principle in law, that no law can have a retroactive effect.
Yes.
So There must be something else to this. At the time the agreement was signed,
yes,
was the federal government not aware
yes,
of what the law is supposed to say or says? And again, are there other cases like this where there may be situations where certain things were not done properly and the contractual agreement is voidable or is null and void ab initio, in which case then nothing can stand on nothing?
Well, you see, both in municipal law and international law, we talk generally about the principle of rebus sic stantibus. If you are induced into error by signing an agreement you wouldn't have signed under normal circumstance, if you did not foresee a problematic as at the time you are negotiating and signing, by the time you now come to realize that you did sign in error, please, that matter can always be considered. On the other side of that...
With equitable remedies?
Precisely. Now, there is another argument.
Lawyers.
Let's be
Another argument is that of estoppel. If, for instance, you make use of an argument, of a point, of an exhibit, of a position, and the court recognizes that position, all right, in the process, in the course of prosecution, you cannot come back and say that point that had been considered, reckoned with, factored into decision processes, you are going away with it.
That will amount to sleeping on your rights.
So when you now bring this to this case of Intels and the government, the first problem to address cannot but include how to reconcile the Constitution grown on. They are talking about the contractual agreement now conflicting with that. What was the position of the Constitution as at the time it was done?
Signed, yeah.
All right. Now, why would you have condoned that agreement, bearing in mind that, look, this conflicted with the
position? So let's say the person there didn't pay attention at the time.
You cannot be wrong. It is a possibility.
Yeah.
But the issue now is that, look, I think it is the French that have always argued that order and counter-order will always amount to disorder. So if by omission, by commission, you forgot to do what is right, then a conflicting situation cannot but be created. And now, yes, as it is now, there is no way it can be looked at as an easy matter to deal with.
Because even the stakeholders, the parties at war and the people behind the
organization. The learned Attorney General is making a point, which is that the Constitution is supreme because it's the basic law.
So you can't contest that.
In law, it is also said a man cannot be punished for
an offense
that did not exist at the time at which that offense was committed.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why I said earlier on that it's not as straightforward.
Yes, that's why I see 70% politics.
The offense was committed then. You have benefited from the offense up till now.
Yeah.
Now, if we stop it so that you stop committing an offense moving forward, who is now at fault?
Well, but you know...
you even made it simpler than I did.
Inter says...
You're committing an offense, so it's okay.
Yes,
stop
Inter
now.
says it's not as straightforward as that again.
True.
Because they claim that they are being owed, you know, and they've been asking for negotiation. But I think that what is important, you know, we haven't even dealt with it. Perhaps there are other issues.
Of course, the people behind
that have to do with how the Nigerian state itself is organized. Yeah. Okay? Maybe perhaps there are other issues about concessioning.
Yes.
At the time many of these concessions were made, perhaps the Nigerian state did not have enough experience about concessioning. True. And many mistakes may have been made.
Yes.
And some of those mistakes, in addressing them, I think, you know, the effort should be comprehensive. And it should be...
No, you're right. And just to sort of piggyback on that, not just experience, but also the intersection between the Nigerian state and the private sector. Because one of the things that has come up, I think, in the last 1 week as well has been the issue of Dangote and his tax breaks. And people are asking, why are Nigerians paying, I think, 45% or 55% more per bag, and he has a tax break over 10 years into the millions of dollars?
You are very right.
And so what does that...
That's another subject entirely.
Whatever it is.
We'll pause here for a short break. You are watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise channel with me, Reuben Abati. We will be right back.